Welcome to the show, man. I'm delighted to have you here.
I am delighted to be here. Very excited to be
Um,
here.
oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's the pleasure's all mine. The pleasure's all
Oh,
mine.
listen, when you invited me, I couldn't have thought of a better place to be to discuss the topics that we talk about, things that I'm passionate about, and the audience that you have and the guests that you have. This is the place to be.
Oh man, that's too kind. I need to actually like package that up and send that to my mom. She needs to hear that.
There you go. There you go. There
And my
you
friends as well.
go.
They're like, "What does he do over there?" Um, but yeah, I was like, honestly, like I was saying to you, like I read QSR and NRN like religiously, like in the
Mhm,
morning, like
mhm,
and I saw you mentioned, and I was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And then
uh-huh.
I did a bit of homework, and then I was like, "Whoa, this guy's
Okay.
a very fascinating background and is involved in a lot of different brands." And I was like,
Mhm,
"Okay, we got to get this guy at the show. Like, people need to know." So, like I always like to do at the beginning of my episode is have my guests introduce themselves because I
mhm.
have a habit of underselling. I don't think I've undersold this time, but would you like to tell us a bit about, who you are, what you do, and most importantly, how you got to where you are today, Naeem?
Absolutely. My name is Naeem Muhammad. By trade, I am a transactional law attorney. I've been that for the better part of 19 years. My background started in the management consulting industry. I then transferred over into the investment banking, global banking industry via Accenture. I was an executive there for quite some time before I left and started my firm, NDM Capital. We are a capital raise firm, an offshore capital raise firm that specializes in the private equity, venture capital, cap raise space. We specialize in raising capital, foreign capital, in the Middle East and in Asia. Um, when doing capital raise in the U.S., what I discovered was that capital in the U.S. is expensive, and
Debt facilities.
and when partnering with founders, it's hard to really partner with them and give them what they need if you're also gouging them at the same time. Um, Standard cap raise rates are anywhere from 18% per annum. They're looking for equity 30. If they can get you for 50%, they will.
Yeah.
Offshore capital raise is much more economical, much more friendly, and it allows my firm to do partnerships with founders. Um, Rather than just be a check that writes, we're able to partner with you for your growth and for your success. That is my expertise in growing companies, ensuring their success, but also partnering with founders, ensuring that their vision is executed in the right way. Um, I stumbled into the franchising space as a kid. My dad had been involved with 7-Eleven since the 80s. So since I was a kid, I was in the
Yeah.
franchising space as a kid, working inside of
Put to
those
work.
franchise stores, So spending my Christmas there, spending my summers there. And so it was a very unique time as a kid. It was very weird because every time I thought about getting into the 7-Eleven space myself, my dad kept telling me, no, 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 not
Yeah.
7-Eleven, not 7-Eleven. And I didn't discover it until I became an adult, and then I went on in my own direction of my personal portfolio of getting involved in the franchising game and partnering with brands
Yeah.
to develop and scale those brands.
Do you want to tell us a bit about the brands that are like under your purview, so to speak?
So currently, I am under Dunkin', Burger King, Popeyes, and Smoothie King.
Whoop, whoop.
And so you read about me, I believe, due to Smoothie King doing a good press junket about me. I love them. Love the CEO there, Juan Kim, as far as franchising goes. Probably the best CEO and owner that I've ever partnered with for development and for scaling a brand.
That's quite a compliment. I would give, I'll say that. And it's like it's amazing that like I guess like the first thing I'll say is stumbled into was the
Yeah,
word you used. Like
yeah.
tell us how like what was the stumbling into?
Well, um, although I'm in the cap raise space, I wanted a personal portfolio of my own, and so I purchased my first piece of real estate when I was about 20, 21 years old. And so when I look at investments for myself, retirement, future, and things like that, um, I love assets that I can control, that I can touch, and that I can feel. I'm not a speculative investor, so I don't necessarily do the markets.
Yeah.
Uh, I like assets that I can see, touch, and that's under my purview, which is why I enjoy investing in businesses. I enjoy investing in real estate, and then franchising came under me as well
Yeah.
too. And so the franchising business was a model that I did not have to create a new wheel. The wheel was already
Yeah.
created, it was perfected, and all I had to do was get in and follow the metrics that they've put in place. But now the onus is on me to develop the teams, which is my expertise, develop the strategy, develop the scaling metrics for the future of the franchising market. And what I discovered in franchising is the only way that you will be successful is if you have the ability to develop amazing teams. If
Yeah.
you're looking to get into the franchising game and you're thinking, I'm going to get one location and I'm going to operate it, you won't get the success that you want out of it. You'll be a worker, you know. And so franchising is an investment for me. And I run it like I would run any other company. I run it off of spreadsheets and teams and direct reports. And I understood that in order for me to make a great success out of it, I had to do it in multiples.
Yeah. I was just going to
So
say that's what you referred to it as when we were
yeah,
chatting. It's a
I
multiple
never
game.
enter any brand looking to get two or three out of you. I want a development deal and I want to do multiples. That is the only way that I can get the numbers out of the franchise that I require
Yeah.
internally.
And that's actually quite an interesting point to make, coming in with that kind of mindset of having, like, say, 4 or 5 or more
Hmm.
locations for any franchise brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, first of all, it puts a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, I guess, like putting on yourself that it's like
Hmm.
the knowledge of knowing that you need to scale to that kind of number per brand to really feel like you're making that sort of 7-figure ROI.
Hmm. I mean, if you are a franchisee who doesn't have the capital to invest at that grand of a scale, at least put it on your uh, projection board that this is where I'm headed. My location will now pay for location number two, and then that'll pay for location number three. But for you to get the reward that you want out of it, you want to see multiples, and I'm talking about financial reward. Otherwise, you end up being inside of a brand that you are a workhorse. I've got a friend who owns 6 McDonald's, and his number one complaint is, as a matter of fact, I thought about going into McDonald's,
Fair.
and
Good. If someone
my
say it's
friend
good business. Famous business. Who knew?
my friend told me, he says, Naeem, if I had $2 million, I would invest it in McDonald's today. I said, well, why? He says, one, the ROI is low. He says, and so in order for you to invest in a McDonald's, you have to have multiples, but you spend most of your time managing and putting out fires all day. And so uh, he has 6, and I have not seen him purchase another one. And it's really because of the growth and the amount of workload that has to be done in managing the operations of the locations.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, so I like smaller footprints, smaller brands, neater menus, sleek menus that
Yep.
doesn't require a heavy hassle for the employees or for me to manage. Again, it sets it up in a way that I can manage each location off of a spreadsheet.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, I do want to go back to the point you made a comment there about access to capital, though.
Mhm.
Like, I guess if you're like an operator or owner like yourself,
Mhm.
like, how important is the knowledge of access to capital for the scaling? You know what I
Extremely
mean?
important.
You seem like a bit of an outlier in the sense that you come from a capital infused, not a capital infused background, it's probably not the right way of phrasing it, but you've got the education of understanding access to capital and the implications of that. This is the first time I've had somebody on the pod be so kind of open about sort of like capital access. And I'm curious, like, that obviously is an edge for you.
Uh, it is. Traditional banks, um, I've not met one yet, and I'm not going to say that they don't completely, but traditional banks aren't necessarily willing to give money towards a build out of a franchise. When you walk into the franchising industry, the franchise fee that's initially due to be paid to the franchisor, that's out of pocket, you know.
Yeah.
But then the biggest cost that you're going to spend is on your build out. You know, you have franchises that you're going to spend anywhere from 400 grand to seven figures to build out a location, and so you need access to capital in order to get that. Uh, and so there are some non-traditional banks that provide
Yeah.
funding to pay for those build outs. And then there are some folks in the investment banking world, if you have a large enough portfolio that they can leverage against, will provide that capital. And so it is very much so important for you to make sure that you've done your education on what capital options you have and what do you have access to. Most folks have no clue about the capital world and they don't
Yeah.
know what's available to them.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I'm getting at, which is quite, I mean, you're very much lifting up the veil here, which is like, obviously quite interesting. And I think like as a sort of podcast conversation, it's actually very like helpful, I think, to people
Yeah.
here. But I think about that a lot. Like, I mean, I have a bit of a finance background myself. I've been working in sort of lending businesses before, consumer credit and then business credit, business lending. And I think about that a lot in the sense that the money down to even get stores stood up is a very like capital intensive
Mhm.
project. And it's very interesting that, like, I mean, to your point, that it's like, not really wanting to touch brands unless you can
Mhm.
get like development deals to get you like 4 or 5 more locations to really
Mhm.
kind of make sense of like the business from, like, as you say, a spreadsheet.
Sure, sure. I mean, lots of franchisors like to attract individuals to the brand, um, and I understand their goal, right? But however, the franchisee, the applicant, has to understand that one location will net you um, maybe 300 grand a year,
Yeah.
depending on the brand. And it could be less, and so for the reward that you want as a business owner, I don't believe that anyone gets into business to make six figures. Everyone that gets into business is
Yeah.
looking for a seven figure plus payout. And so in order for you to get in there, the truth of the matter is that you need to have multiples. So when you're looking at a brand, you need to be looking at a situation where you can get into 4 or 5 locations. Talk to the other franchisees when they give you the FDD, the franchise disclosure document. Talk to them and see what their net positions are on their store, so you understand the market and you understand what's happening in the area. Um, but also make sure you come in with an amazing marketing plan. Make sure you come in with a marketing plan that's looking to touch the customers, um, to attract them to your location. No one has a reason or a demand to walk into your door. You have to attract them to your
Yeah.
door. You know, and building relationships with your customers where they can trust your brand. When they walk into your door, you want them not only to get a product from you, but you want them to walk away from you with an amazing experience that makes them want to come back to your location. And I think a lot of franchisees get into the industry thinking that I'll sell a burger, I'll sell a fry, or anything else like that. But if you want to really grow your business, make sure that you're giving your customer an experience and making sure that your staff have bought into the vision that uh, the customer is not, you're not doing the customer a favor by providing them that service. They're doing you the favor by coming in and patronizing your business. And it is our pleasure as the franchisee to serve you. It's our pleasure to make sure that we give you the best experience. Um, and franchisees have to make sure that they have sold their employees on that vision so that those employees execute on that vision.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I know that, like, I've got a quote here from you in inverted commas in my notes that says, I am an expert at building teams. And, one of the the big issue with people in the world of hospitality is finding good people. Like finding good front of house, finding good back of house, finding good managers, and finding the people that could potentially scale and grow within your company, like to deliver the experience that you need to deliver to, as you say, come back again and again and again. Like, just because they come in once doesn't mean they'll come back again. you
Mhm.
know, so it's like building out that sort of habituality, and that comes with a great guest experience. You know, I guess, you know, when it comes to like, how do you help, how do you define the vision that you're trying to get across to your employees? You know, like when you're like looking for your front of house, your back of house, you know, interviewing these people to come work in your restaurants, like how do you communicate the vision to them?
So it's less about me initially communicating the vision. It's
Yeah.
about me understanding the potential employees' vision and goal for themselves. Okay. So when we interview, we want to understand a couple things. One, yes, this is a job, right? But what's your career
Yeah.
goal, right? Where is it that you would like to be? What are your educational goals? Um, what has been your experiences as a customer walking into different brands, uh, and why did you return back to those brands, and why did you not return back to some of these brands? As a consumer, we want to understand these behaviors so that then we can work with you in shaping the vision and the goal that you have for yourself.
Yeah.
Just 2 days ago, I was inside of the Apple store. I'll give you a very quick example. And so the young lady that was servicing me, um, and I have a tendency to do this wherever I go where folks are providing me service.
Yeah.
Okay. I talk to
Excited.
you and I ask a lot of questions, right? And so I asked her, I says, well, how long have you worked here? And she told me how long she worked there. I'm just amazed that she'd been there for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Inside of an Apple store. And my question was, why did you maintain being in a retail store for 10 years at the position that you are? And she says, I just had a baby. She says, they take really good care of us. She says, I was
Yeah.
off for 5 months and they paid me full time for that. She says, when I came back, I was only able to work 20 hours, but they still paid me my full time hours. They took care of her, they were invested in her.
Yeah. It's a real gesture.
And yeah. And so, as a franchisee, as a business owner, you have to understand that you're not just a single site location. You're also taking on, especially when you're dealing with adults, right? You're taking on the responsibility of them, their family, their children, their future. And so, it's up to the owners, it's up to the franchisee to build a business that allows the manager, your general manager, your employees to have a place where they can grow. Otherwise, they're going to do
Yeah.
like most employees do. They will shop and shop around to the next employer, next employer, next employer. But if you
Yes.
want a team that will be dedicated to you, dedicated to your vision, dedicated to your customers, but will run the store like they own the store because it belongs to them, you want to give them a vision that they themselves can grow within the company. So the reason why I have continued to invest and purchase into other brands is because I have employees that deserve to be promoted. And I may not
Yeah.
have a position for them in the brand that they're currently working in. So I will promote them outside of the brand into the next brand and give them the positions that they need. Right. I have no problem with also taking employees who have been phenomenal and they have went through the ranks of being maybe a cashier today, assistant manager, a manager, GM. They've went from district manager to area manager, and now the next place for them that they have expressed to me that they would like to go is to be a franchisee themselves. I will invest
That's
in making
awesome.
sure that they get the next place in their career, right? And so they have to know that you as an owner are invested in their future, invested in their life, invested in their growth. I meet with every one of my employees every quarter.
Yeah.
And in that quarter, we talk about the benchmarks of growth that you've had within this quarter. What are your visions? What are your goals? Have you met the previous goals that we talked about last quarter? And it's all
Yeah.
about shaping and mentoring them into the next direction for their career. That's how you maintain a good staff. But that's also how I get them to buy into the vision because they understand that I've bought into them.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly it. Like that kind of quid pro quo. Like,
Mhm.
you know, what benefits you of having you get to, you know, have great staff who are bought into a vision who will like die for you. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know, you know, I mean, metaphorically speaking, everybody, but like, you
They'll
know,
work
especially
crazy hours for you, and they will go out of their way to make
they
sure your
go, yeah,
customers feel
they'll go above and beyond. And I mean,
good.
you put 100 people against, like, line up 100 people and
Mhm,
say, do you want people who'll die for you, who will like go that extra mile for you in your business? And every single person will say, yes, that's what I want.
mhm, mhm,
Ask them all the same question. Is like, you know, do any of you have those today? You might say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people. Like half of them might have people like that in their
yeah,
business.
mhm.
and we double down, we double click into that, and we ask, like, why is that? Like, what are the things that you're doing that
Mhm.
get people to go that extra mile? You
Absolutely.
know, and I think to your point, Naeem, there, it's like invest in your people. Like,
Mhm.
I've done over 100 episodes now. I'm actually losing count in it now. I mean, I've no idea how many
Mhm.
episodes I've done. But when I talk to people about this very thing, it's like now more than ever, there's an onus, in particular in hospitality, to
Mhm.
double down on identifying talent in the company and giving that talent the oxygen to grow,
Mhm.
giving it like everything it needs. I
Mhm.
actually recorded an episode recently with a woman who is VP of people and culture at a hotel group
Mhm.
and like 48 hotels. And she told me that 12 years ago, she started in that job as a housekeeper.
Mm.
And I was like, girl, you are the
Yeah.
success story. I was like,
Mm.
this is unbelievable.
Mhm.
Like that you
Mhm.
started as a housekeeper, they identified you as
Mhm.
somebody, they gave you what you needed, and
Mhm.
now you're in this super qualified role that you have
Mhm.
earned every inch
Mhm.
of. And it's
Mhm.
like those kinds of stories, you obviously everybody dreams of like having those people in their
Mhm.
company, because talk about invested, talk about having somebody who would literally go the extra mile for your
Mhm.
business. And that's the kind of people we're looking for. I think
This is the story that we've stopped hearing about, because this
totally.
was the story. This was the story of our parents and grandparents' age as well too. Or they started on the floor, and the next thing you know, they're the VP of sales.
Yep.
Or they're the chief financial, whatever it is. They've grown within the company. So that 30-30 plan has sort of gotten away from us. I mean, the average lifespan of an employee today, you know, it's about 7 years.
Is this
you
every
know,
year? I was
and,
going to
and,
say
and that's a
7 months,
long
but
time now. That's a long time for them today, right? But you can
totally.
guarantee that they've been shopping their resume the entire time, because they've never felt like their future was secure with the company that they were with. And so you
Totally.
want to make them feel secure. You want to make them feel that their future is secure. It's a very, very, very scary economy, and people want security, and they have to know that my owner is invested in me personally, and he's invested in my future, and you want to
Totally.
give them that.
I mean, you're dead right. You know what I mean? Like it's like I mean, when I have people on this podcast, I mean, everybody's a success. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not like, I mean, it would not make any sense for me to have
Uh-huh.
unsuccessful
Mhm.
owner operators on this podcast, so to speak. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, one of the themes I hear across the board is like this investment in their human capital now. And I mean, to phrase it as human capital, also, it's just
Uh-huh.
like, welcome to
Mhm.
the machine, as Pink Floyd said. But like, I think, like, you know, I think the pendulum has shifted from looking at employees as a cost line item
Mhm.
to now being like, wow, they are such a cost that I need to actually invest in them. And we're
Mm.
actually looking at like employees and hospitality as assets
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
because identifying the ones is the name of the game, because the cost of hiring, the cost of training, the cost of
Mhm.
onboarding
Mhm.
to turn over staff in less than 90 days. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Where so many like franchise businesses do this, so many hospitality
It's a lot of
businesses, they drop
leakage. A lot of
so
leakage.
much
Yeah.
leakage, and
Mhm.
just thinking about the cost of that, and then the cost of finding the opportunity cost of losing that person that
Mhm.
may have been great for you because
Yeah.
your systems weren't good, or your way of like hiring wasn't good, or your setup wasn't good, or whatever. It's just extraordinary. I think you made a great point there the last day, which made me as an immigrant to this country, you made a great point where you were like, you want to give that American dream to people, like as in,
Absolutely.
and I think franchise. I mean, we talked about McDonald's earlier. The Golden Arches are like the kind of almost like the identifier of like a sort of American dream, so to speak.
Mhm.
It's like, I mean, obviously, I know you don't work with McDonald's, but I mean, in the sense that like they were referenced, but it's like, what's more American than the arch? If you
Mhm.
ask any global person, I'm sure it has
Absolutely. Mhm.
100% unaided brand awareness.
Mhm.
And we're talking about American dream here, like like I'm a blow in here and I'm doing this business and I'm listening to these stories, but you're also able to give first gen people, like, get them in, and
Mhm.
they'll bust their ass, and they
Mhm.
will like achieve
Mhm.
a quality of life here that they'll not really kind of get elsewhere. It's kind of amazing. And
Some of my best
you're a key opener
employees,
for
some of
them.
my best employees are immigrant employees,
Yeah.
and when meeting with them um, on the employment application portion, um, I talk to them about their future. What is your dream here in the United States? What is it that you ultimately would like to do? And then um, I I give them a very good, vivid picture of what my role and what my company's role can play in that future for them. Because
That's
I
awesome.
know that they're going to come and work hard for me. It's their
Yeah.
nature, right? They're here. They've got to work hard in order to make it. Everyone knows that if you come to the United States and you work hard, you can chart your own course here, right? Uh, but of course, as they are working hard to chart their own course, I want to be a part of the story. I want my
Yeah.
company to be a part of the story. I want it to be a part of your story. Um, um, and as long as I can have you with me, I'm grateful, and I'm going to take good care of your vision. I'm going to take good care of your future. But also, I'm not a franchisee and I'm not an owner that's afraid to see you grow and
Yeah.
then become an operator yourself as well too, right? Absolutely. You can be an operator. I will invest in making sure that you are your own franchise operator. Join our brand. You know how we run it. It's fluid. You love the
Yeah.
processes. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You now can have your own location. So I'm absolutely invested in the opportunities of growth and in the American dream for every employee. Even when I talk to, I've got some kids who are about to go to college. I ask them, what's the next step? Where do you
Yep.
need to go? What role do you need me to play in that future for you? And what role does the company play for you? If this is not where you ultimately want to be, then maybe I can use my connections, things that are within my portfolio to help you get to where you need to be.
I think, it's actually kind of amazing. I had a guest a couple months ago, the CEO of Pizza Factory over in California, a woman called MJ Riva. And she was saying the same thing that, like she has kids that have come in as teenage jobs, like people like, slinging
Mhm,
dough and making pizzas. It's like a
mhm,
great kind of, start job, like for people in high school or whichever, and some stay.
mhm,
And she was telling me her story of how she did that at a donut store. She bought the donut store off
mhm,
the guy, and then that was her first foray into the space. She has over
mhm,
100 locations now, Pizza
mhm,
Factory. And her big thing was enabling the people within her organization, providing them the sort of the capital and the investment to get started with their
mhm,
own restaurants, and I love to hear it because it's like it is giving back in a way that's an aligned incentive. Like it's a
mhm,
win-win for everybody. I mean, if you know that that person's awesome and you can back them, and if you can back them with money, like everybody wins. They get their store, what charity does it take your money on? Like, I mean, it's a payback for everybody. And it's like knowing that that opportunity exists for people
mhm.
within the organization, like, you're good, the opportunities are kind of endless, and it's like being able to realize that for people and be able to present that vision is certainly compelling.
The irony of this part of this conversation is that Juan Kim, the CEO of Smoothie King,
Yeah.
that is his story. He was a franchisee of Smoothie King. He built the market in Korea for Smoothie King, for the original owner. He now is the owner of Smoothie King. He
That
went
is
from being
awesome.
its franchisee, its largest franchisee, to now being the owner of the entire company. That is the story of an immigrant
Yeah.
getting the American dream. So I love the stories, and franchising also is an opportunity for a lot of immigrants. A lot of immigrants have made wealth and
Yep.
have made the American dream happen for themselves and for their families off of the franchising model. And I want to see more Americans tap into it as well too, more young Americans as well to get involved. It is an opportunity to invest into a solid investment that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You've got a whole
Yep.
team around you to assist you and help you. Get you a mentor inside of the industry as well to help you to help walk you through it. But it is an amazing opportunity for folks to jump into.
Totally. And I mean, like, get like I think just in the way that you like manage people and your sort of philosophy here,
Mhm.
like It's pretty awesome. And I know that we spoke about as well that, like, your performance bonus is tied to like
Mhm,
the store performance.
mhm.
So again, it's very much leaning into that sort of concept of like aligning the incentives for people, like
Absolutely.
you win, we win, you win, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? And it's like the
mhm.
fruits of your labor are shared.
Absolutely. And as a franchisee, um, you can't try to take all of the money home, right? You've got to
Yeah.
share it with your team, right? And so your day-to-day operations are ran by your staff and by your team. The experience of your store comes from the employees. And if you don't have employees that have bought into the vision, have bought into the operations of the store, they're not invested in giving the customer an experience
Yeah.
as well as a good product. You have a good product, but now you have to give the experience. Because also you can have a good product, but because you have employees that have not bought into the vision, they also will take a good product and turn it into a shitty product. Okay. There are absolutely franchises where you have stores where they're pushing out bad product and bad experiences because they don't care about it,
Yeah.
or corners are being cut. It's sort of like going to one particular location and they make sure everything is available for you, and the other one they're running out of products, and it's like, how are you running out of products? And you are a burgers and fry joint. You sell burgers and fries. Uh, uh, and then a bad experience, you know. So I am big on cleanliness of the location. I'm big on cleanliness of the bathroom. These are things that I want to experience as a customer,
Yeah.
let alone as an owner, right? And so I want my customers to experience that as well too. I want every customer to feel like they have been welcomed into the place that they have walked into,
Yeah.
and that their order, no matter how meticulous or whatever it is our pleasure to do it. It is our pleasure to serve you, and it is our pleasure to see you come back again. So bonuses are tied into the pleasure piece that we provide to the customer.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a scoring model that we use and making it your pleasure to serve the customer. We're so meticulous that we have an 800 number in every
I
one of
was
our
just going to
locations.
say.
If a customer has not had the experience that we have branded, they can call that 800 number and someone from the E team will come down to that store, wherever it is, because we're in 3 states.
Yeah.
Um, they will come down to that store and they will sit and they will meet with you to work out that issue that you had with that location. We don't want to lose not one customer, not one.
I've never have you like how often do people call the 1-800? I'm always curious. Like 1-800, how's my
We
driving?
really don't get a lot of calls, but
It's
the ones that we
TikToks.
do, we're very on it, you know,
Yeah.
and we pay very close attention to Google reviews and everything else like that. We pay attention to everything. We don't
Yeah.
miss a beat, because all it takes is a trend to start happening about your location or a particular employee,
Yeah.
um, and so we're very much so on top of that, because we care about our customers and we care about our customers' experience, and we want them to walk out with a smile on their face, wanting to come by the next morning. I have
Totally.
customers who walk in the door and they say, "Hey, listen, I can't start my day until I've come in here and got this or got that." But it's also the experience that they've got, you know.
You gotta put that on your website, and you gotta frame that on the wall. I'm such a social proof guy. I'm
No.
like, if somebody texted me that, I'd be like taking a screenshot of that and posting it on like all over the internet. I'm like, social proof, look, it's not made up, but
Yeah,
it matters,
yeah.
like I don't like I leave reviews. I
Uh-huh.
on online. I would never leave negative review, but I like, especially if a place is new, I'm
Mhm.
big into leaving them a review because I know that they matter,
Uh-huh.
and I think like, a new little pizza place opens in the corner. I'm like, yeah, those guys are busting their ass trying to make this thing happen. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm like,
yeah,
I leave them a nice review.
yeah.
And I think about them a lot because I think the way we experience a restaurant now has changed. And I think it's like,
Mm.
I had somebody on the podcast recently and we were talking about smartphone storytelling. And his
Uh-huh.
whole thing was like, how authentic a message can you get your brand across
Uh-huh.
online? He's like, people are on social media, they're on Reddit, they're
Mhm.
like on infatuation or whichever, they're
Yeah.
in like, social groups, whichever. So like, what's the medium? What's the content that goes in there about your brand?
Uh-huh.
And I'm curious because I actually like I know like it's just something that kind of came to mind here when we were just chatting about the 1-800 number is like, you know, everything is so viral now, and
Mm.
it's like And this is where amazing attention to detail that you're talking
Mhm,
about comes in, and amazing employee experience comes in, because you need to
mhm,
have great people in the restaurant to make sure that that toilet is spick and span. You know what I
mhm,
mean? People notice
mhm.
that, when you walk into the restaurant. I won't name a name of a business, but I was in a fast casual recently.
Uh-huh.
And I get it was like 2 p.m. So it was like just at the tail end of like the lunch rush. But the
Mhm,
trash cans were like overflowing.
mhm.
And I was like, "Come on, guys!" Like, and I know that they're all behind the counter and they're all like, making the food, spitting out the food as fast as they could. But it's like, I don't. I mean, I guess the food's fine, but I'm remembering the trash. Do you know what I mean? And it's
The
like,
hour on the hour on any location that I have, someone must tour the floor and tour the
yeah,
bathroom. I have a sign-in sheet that you have toured the floor for the hour.
totally.
If I get a complaint during that hour and you told me that you toured that floor during that hour,
God,
it's a problem. It's a problem.
totally.
And it's really I cannot st I went someplace, was it yesterday? I walked in there and there was urine on the floor,
Oh,
all over the
that's.
floor.
I mean, that exists. I
And
mean,
I
that's
went I
revolting.
looked in there and I says, "I'm not going in there because I know I'm gonna track that urine back out of there, back into my car, back into my home."
Yeah,
No. So I just you should be on top of the cleanliness of your store and of your
yeah.
bathroom facilities. It's a food establishment,
Oh
you
man,
know?
it's like,
Um, I
it's
remember I
surprising.
had a tenant in one of my buildings, and it was so the apartment is sort of the old gray stone building, so it still had the swinging door where the kitchen is,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and so she stores her dog in the kitchen, and so I happened to come to just sort of do a tour of the unit, and so I went into the kitchen. I see the dog, and I see poop and pee in the bathroom. I mean, in the kitchen, and I says, "Man, this is where you feed your kids."
Oh, I know. I mean, like, talk about like Ramsey's Kitchen
You know,
Nightmares.
so just
Like,
so yeah, so
it's on tap
these
for
are
in
just
there.
yeah, so these are just things that as a consumer, I always think about myself as a consumer and what my experiences
Yeah.
are like and what I prefer and what I enjoy, and I try to give that to every customer. Post COVID, you'll see a lot of restaurants that once were considered fine dining restaurants. Um, if you walked in and you didn't have a sport coat on, they would tell you you'd have a t-shirt or whatever on because you're traveling or you're shopping or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and they'll say, okay, well, in order for you to dine here, you must have a suit jacket, a sport coat. We have some in the back. You can just hang it on the back of your chair, right? And that set a standard for your dining experience. You knew what to experience. You knew what to expect from your customers around you because you knew it was a certain particular style of customer
Yeah.
that walked in that door, right?
Yeah.
Post COVID, I went into some of those same restaurants and I see guys in there with cargo shorts, tank tops, and flip flops.
Oh,
Completely different style of experience, right? Most of
yeah.
those restaurants have shut down.
It's funny you say that. I actually went to one of those in New Orleans, or New
Mhm.
Orleans, or however people want
Yeah,
to pronounce it.
yeah.
New Orleans,
Nolans.
New Orleans, in 2021, and
Uh-huh.
we booked this very fancy restaurant,
Mhm.
and we none of us had sport sport
Oh, wow.
coats,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
so we went to the Goodwill. And
Oh,
obviously, we had a couple of drinks beforehand, and we bought like, they were basically novelty jackets. Like,
uh-huh.
they were like big enough for an elephant, and we all kind of walked in with these floppy jackets. But they thought it was so funny that they were like, "Come on in, guys, come on
Yeah,
in," and
yeah.
we were like, "Yes, accepted." But to your
Most of those
point,
restaurants, they have extra jackets in the back
oh
for
no, I
you.
know. We were
Yeah,
like, obviously, like,
yeah.
let's make it a bit of a novelty little trip
There
to
you
go
go.
and
There you
do
go.
it.
There you go.
But I think about that in the sense that, like, times have changed, people have changed,
Mhm.
and standards have shifted. That doesn't mean standards are up or down,
Uh-huh.
got worse, but standards have shifted. To your point, I mean, like, I'm working from home today and I'm wearing a sweater. I get
Mhm.
wear this outside. I mean, I actually like the sweater, but like,
Mhm.
you're wearing a sport coat. I mean, I don't
Mhm.
expect to be like doing any like in-person meetings today.
Uh-huh.
And the way like office attire, like I talked to my missus about this, and she's got an
Mhm.
in-person job. Her role has been transitioned to being in-person now. She's like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, I just don't own the dresses that I used to have
Uh-huh.
anymore, like
Mhm.
what you would wear to work." And so that kind of style has kind of shifted. And I think, though, nothing will ever change how we should be experiencing a restaurant. Like, I mean, the four walls are the experience. Like, I had an amazing CEO on this podcast recently,
Mm.
a guy called JW from Shucking Shack Oysters down in the Carolinas. And, we had a whole chat about third party, and,
Uh-huh.
it was really a third party. It was a real strong chat on third party. But one of the things he was talking about was like, people come to our restaurant not just for the food, they come for the drinks, they come for the experience. And I think about that a lot, because that's how, like, if you're going into any establishment, like, I want it to be clean. I want there to be, like, if it's like fast casual, if it's QSR, it has to be clean. The bathrooms have to be clean. The staff have to be like tucked in shirts. You know what I mean? Like when they're behind the counter, like I get if there's stains from today, but if there's stains from like, last night or whichever, it's like, okay, what's going on there? I'm not asking for somebody to be shaved, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, when it's like 4-day-old stubble, it's like, hey, come on, like, guys, it's like, look, there's little things that still matter in the perception of like running these things. And, they all ladder up to like people's perception of the location. You know what I mean? And I guess like this is why people are so obsessed with like Chick-fil-A, as held up as like the example.
They have a great model.
4 walls, their model for like how they expect people to be is amazing. And I mean, Naeem, like, you're absolutely like selling the same picture to me here. You know what I mean? I'm gonna have to obviously come up to Chicagoland, and I'm gonna have to pop in.
You could,
you're gonna have to
come
show
to
me
Vegas or Chicago or Wisconsin. We're also going to be doing in Indiana as well too. We're actually in the process now of doing 2 locations on the Strip. We're going to be getting into the airport there in Vegas as well too. We have some off-Strip locations.
That's for the smoothies
right now. Yes. So we're building 2 locations at a time. So right now we're under construction. Right now in Chicago and in Vegas. So we will be building 2 every 12 months, 1 in each state, to build out the market. And because it's such a great brand, great owner, I'm willing to grow with them. Now, however, I always say to you that I have no particular allegiance to any particular brand. Right?
You did say that.
I will buy into any brand that I feel that fits the model that I have internally inside of my firm. And so the difference for any franchisor is that inside of my firm, you've got 31 folks here. That's a mixture of attorneys, risk analysts, portfolio managers, accountants, and everything else like that. So when we look at a brand, we're running you through the gamut before we even make a call, before we call making the FDD. We have committed about $16 million to building out the brand with Smoothie King. And so we will continue to look at other brands. Chick-fil-A, we're interested. So
if you're hearing,
we're interested. Portillo's, we're interested.
I love Portillo's.
And so there are some brands that we're extremely interested in. And so feel free to come out to any of the markets and take a look at us and watch what we do.
Oh yeah, I mean, we'll make some content.
There you go.
Smartphone storytelling is not what they call it. So Naeem, man, you're an absolute legend. Can you believe we've just almost hit 45 minutes of this?
It went by fast. It went by fast.
You're a gregarious character. You're honestly a phenomenal operator. I love your way of thinking. I love like how you're applying like sort of your finance and consulting background and life experience into like a very clear vision for how you want to operate. And it's phenomenal. And you've been so incredibly successful already. And frankly, I just want to thank you for coming on the pod. Like it's been an absolute pleasure having you here, man. It really has.
And I appreciate being on here. For any franchisee that's looking to get into the business, the number one most important thing when assessing your business and assessing your failure, and this is again one of my expertise, is being able to know every problem that you have within your business. But the intricate and the most important part of assessing that is knowing how much each one of those problems are costing you. Those are dollars and cents that you're losing based on a problem that you could fix.
Wow. That's the best advice I think I've had on the show. So I appreciate that, man. You're a legend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well, too.